Welcome back everyone to another reaction video. Well, I apologize that there hasn't been any content for the last several days. I have been pretty much debilitated with a pretty nasty cold that I know has been going around. A lot of people have had it. Started getting it right at the beginning of being at the Show of Shows down in Louisville, Kentucky, and I am going to be doing a video where I show off the things that I got at the Show of Shows, and I'm going to be posting that over on Stories of the Great War, because everything I got has to do with World War I, so I think that's the best place for that. Be telling the stories of those things as we go along. But I do want to dive into the latest epic rap battle of history. It's Napoleon versus Charlemagne, and this one actually makes a ton of sense to me, because Charlemagne is kind of known as the founder of the Holy Roman Empire in the year, I think it was 800. In fact, I've actually knelt on the spot in St. Peter's Basilica where it said that, granted, the St. Peter's that is there now in the Vatican is not the one that Charlemagne would have been in when he was crowned Holy Roman Emperor, but they know pretty much the spot. There's a red circle in the spot where it happened, because the new St. Peter's is built on the site of the old St. Peter's. And so I have a picture of me actually kneeling on the spot where Charlemagne was crowned Holy Roman Emperor. So that's pretty cool. And then it's 1,000 years later that Napoleon, through his conquests and through the wars of the coalition, actually puts an end to the 1,000-year Reich. Yes, the one that actually did last 1,000 years of the Holy Roman Empire. So makes sense to have these two against each other. It'll be interesting. As always, I highly encourage you, I'll put the link in the description. If you haven't already seen this epic rap battle of history, watch it first, because I'm going to be pausing a lot and breaking down what they're saying and kind of trying to give some historic context and talk about the references. I'm not going to talk about every single little thing, but this is not the way to watch this rap battle if you want to be entertained by it. This is my breakdown of that. So keep that in mind. Don't give me any feedback, oh, you talk too much. That's the point. That's why I'm here, is to talk too much. So I'm also going to pin in the comment section down below. The pinned comment will be my playlist of all the previous breakdowns I've done of epic rap battles of history. Let's go ahead and dive into this one.
Epic rap battles of history. Charlemagne versus Napoleon!
Who's the conquering king par excellence? Who fathered his own renaissance and gave birth to fun? It is I, Charles the Great, son of Pepin the Short, tortured this overblown war, horny backwards forcing course again. The Pope's eyes saved the Holy Roman Empire, established it.
All right, so let me pause right there. He says the Pope's eyes saved them. The Pope at the time is Leo III. And Leo III was in a lot of trouble with, you got to remember, the popes are not only religious leaders, they're also very much political leaders, and a lot of them operated more of the latter than they did of the former, controlling the papal states and all these sorts of things. But Leo III actually has to flee from people who attempt to cut out his eyes and his tongue. And he goes to Charlemagne, who is a pretty powerful guy at this point. And so there's kind of this marriage that happens between the church and the state. It existed before in the Roman Empire, that Christianity becomes the official religion of the Roman Empire. And we've been a little over 300 years now without the Western Roman Empire. And so this is very much viewed as a reestablishment of that. And so when Charlemagne is crowned Holy Roman Emperor and has the Pope do this, this is giving power to the Pope and to Charlemagne. It's giving religious legitimacy to Charlemagne, and it's giving authority, legitimacy and authority to the Pope, because the Pope is the one who is granting him this authority as emperor. So it's a very convenient marriage for both men in that sense.
It lasted 1,000 years until you pranced up and savaged Egypt, Haiti, Spain. Your campaigns are too elaborate.
So he talks about Egypt, Haiti, and Spain. These are three, and then you could add to that Russia, kind of the big stains on Napoleon's resume. Obviously, Egypt, he was sent there before he is emperor, before he's even in charge of the French government. He's just a general at that point. And when things go badly there, he gets out of there and he comes back and is a part of the coup that overthrows the government and eventually makes him first consul. Spain, of course, is this guerrilla war that goes on for years that just bogs his abilities down from being able to deal with anybody else effectively. And, of course, we've talked about Haiti in the past as well. Haiti, they have this slave revolt that happens, and Napoleon tries to reconquer Haiti, and when he's unable to do so effectively, he gives up on having any Western ambitions, and that's when he's going to sell the Louisiana territory to the United States.
Your bubble of an empire popped like an arbor hit. I struck the fear of God in every land I take, leaving pagans quaking, making them do the Charlemagne shake. The bloody verdict of this battle has already been decided. Like the love between you and Josephine is one-sided.
Oh, okay. So Empress Josephine is Napoleon's first wife, really the love of his life, and their relationship is pretty complicated, especially early on. Don't believe everything you see in the Napoleon movie, especially when it comes to this part, but Josephine had been married once before. Her first husband is sent to the guillotine during the French Revolution and all of those events that happen. She's nearly sent herself. She's several years older than Napoleon. She's got 2 children, one of whom, her son, ends up becoming one of Napoleon's best generals, I think. And yeah, it's pretty complicated at first. He goes off to Egypt. She has an affair, at least one affair. And then he starts having affairs after that. And it's rocky. Eventually it kind of settles in, but she's not able to give him children. And so eventually he has to divorce her, as much as he really didn't want to, because he needs to be able to produce an heir once he becomes emperor. And that's why he marries the Empress from Austria.
You Queen's
Well,
Caroline
he makes
James.
her empress when he marries her.
Charlatan, I'm the genuine article military artisan. You're a clanky old suit of armor. A Bombard, the janky monarch of the Franks and the Lombards. Your joyous sword.
So yeah, the idea of the Holy Roman Empire is much more for us a later idea, but this is really where it starts, and he's the king of the Franks, emperor of the Franks. And when we talk about Franks, you can kind of say it's Germany, but it's also Belgium and the Netherlands and France, and eventually in the generations to come, it's going to be all split up, and you're going to have West Francia, which is going to become France. East Francia is going to become Germany, and then you have the middle area, which is we call Lotharingia, which is, I think, to this day the German word for Lorraine.
Cohorts asunder, but was a bit more outgone. Now the deals have 4 numbers. That is canister shot, and you receive those balls when I blast you with my 12-pounder Griever ball. Le Petit Corporal, here to get my...
Le Petit Corporal, that was a nickname that they had for Napoleon, his men, and it wasn't because he was short, because we've talked about this before. He's probably about 5'6", 5'7", which is very much average height for the time, as they say. The idea of him being short is actually pretty much a British propaganda invention, which I always found interesting, because Horatio Nelson, who's one of the great heroes of the war for the British, was several inches shorter than Napoleon. He was a tiny guy. But the Little Corporal was actually a nickname that his men had for him because of their love for him, their familiarity with him. It wasn't because he was little and he wasn't seen as a great general.
Groove on! Even if I lose, I come back and get my cool on! I'll subdue you brutally, like a royalist in Toulon!
So Toulon is where Napoleon first makes a name for himself. He is a brigadier general in charge of artillery. Actually, is he even a brigadier general yet? Or has he made a brigadier general after that battle? I think he's made one after that battle. But he's kind of the main reason they're able to win that siege. And that's one of the best parts of the Napoleon movie, which is horrible, is the opening scenes of Toulon, which is, I think, at least portrayed in an interesting and compelling way.
The smoothest French thing in Grey seems poupon! Oh,
Grey Poupon, it's a type of mustard that was back before the days of memes when I was growing up. If we had memes, Grey Poupon would be one, because they had these commercials that were hilarious where they'd pull up and they'd be like, is that mustard? And it's like, no, it's Grey Poupon.
Oh, you can't quite rock it. That must be why you keep your hand like that. No pocket. You are nothing but a whiny little egotistic swine. You got sunk by a Brit with a bullet in his spine.
That's a reference to Nelson, who was killed at the Battle of Trafalgar, which is a great victory for the British and kind of sealed the fate, I think, long term of Napoleon, because it was the end of Napoleon's ambitions of being able to invade the British Isles. And it sets them down the path of Napoleon's continental system, which is going to set him down the path of invading Russia, which is going to seal the fate of his empire.
And your Russian debacle was even worse. You got beat by lice. You should have been listed in elementary school nurse. People still place my name next to God. Charlemagne.
Yeah, next to God, Charlemagne. I think isn't there a rapper or some kind of musical artist called Charlemagne to God? People forget that Napoleon's army suffered pretty horribly before it even got to the Russian winter from disease and things like lice, which was a major problem in camps all through history.
Pretend to Moscow and retreat from these flames!
Yeah, and Moscow was burned by the Russians to deprive Napoleon of a place to keep his army when he had advanced way too far, way too late into the year back in 1812.
Poison around my neck in case of capture, and I almost just drank it. You are that bad of a rebel!
So he was well known to have kept a vial of poison around his neck, and I think at one point he did try to drink it, and it just made him sick. But there were several times where he considered suicide as a means of ending his life when things were going particularly badly.
Thank you with E. Your loss is real because E. Like the Alps in winter with your pregnant wife, you shouldn't cross me. When I conquer, I don't need a pumped hand. I grip a diamond drip hilt and put your crown on myself.
And that's a reference to the fact that when Napoleon was crowned emperor of the French in, December of 1804, 1 year to the day before his great victory at Austerlitz, he crowned himself. Now, what people often forget in that story is this was not a kind of on the spot thing, an impromptu thing. This was planned by Napoleon, and the Pope knew that Napoleon was going to do this. It wasn't like he just walked up and grabbed it out of the Pope's hand and did it on his own head and on a whim. This was something that he had thought through. Napoleon didn't often do things on the fly. He always had a plan. He always thought through. He was very calculated in that way.
The only throne you belong on is the latrine. You might be king of the Franks, but you can suck beans. Oh, whoa.
All right. I love Napoleon, but I feel like Charlemagne had the better disses on this one. And, of course, has the argument that he established an empire that lasted for 1,000 years where Napoleon's lasted for a decade. So I gotta say Charlemagne probably won that, but let me know what you think in the comment section below, and check out some of the other epic rap battles that I've done breakdowns of over time. That is in the pinned comment section there. Thanks for watching.